Hey there, I'm Sully, and as always, welcome to the Gun Club. Got a few incidents I want to cover today. The first of which I think has made national news, has gone all over the place, and I'm sure everybody has heard a lot about it. And I don't have a lot to add to what's been out publicly so far, but I do want to cover it and go over a few thoughts I have regarding this incident. It unfortunate. It's a tragic set. Any active shooter mass shooting incident is always tragic. This one, I think, a little bit more so, just based on the individual involved and some of his mentality. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it occurred in Jacksonville, Florida, back on the 26th of August. It went down and occurred at a Dollar General. Male suspect pulled into the parking lot, gets out of his car, walks up to the front door, proceeds to fire into a car that's sitting right outside the front door in the parking lot, killing the occupant. I believe she was a 52-year-old lady who had just driven a friend to the store, going about her life, and this idiot shot her sitting in her car. He then entered the store, shot the employee who was behind the counter. This again caused multiple customers to begin fleeing, several running out the back of the store. He then shot another customer who had just entered the store with his girlfriend and chased a couple of people around the store, chased his girlfriend. And when law enforcement arrived a few minutes later, the suspect shot himself, ending the scene. We go through the whole thing, and in the midst of it, between his engagement with these multiple people and chasing people around the store, he contacted his father, with whom he lived. He was a 21-year-old male, lived with his parents in Clay County, which is about 15 to 20 miles away. Per law enforcement, he texted his father during the attack and told him to go into his room and look at some of his writing. The father did. He goes in. He finds not only a suicide note, but also extensive writings and what we'll call manifestos. I don't know, haven't read it yet, hasn't been released yet to the public, but these manifestos, I almost think sometimes calling them manifestos gives little pieces of garbage like this too much credit. Maybe it's a high school essay, maybe it's a junior high essay, I don't know. But these writings were described by the father and by law enforcement as extensively racist. Law enforcement went on to describe it basically as the diary of a madman. The gentleman made no bones about how he felt he wanted to kill N-words. Now, this gentleman was a white gentleman, and he obviously had some problem, real, perceived, imagined, whatever, and decided he wanted to do this. We don't know any more besides he just wanted to go kill black people. Now, that kind of stuff is disgusting. And it's interesting. I think it really, when we get into some of the aftermath of it and some of the follow up to it, what has come out of this and what I've heard subsequent to this has really been kind of bizarre, kind of weird, and troubling to say the least. It's troubling that this guy does this. The fact that this kind of hate still lives in our country to this day, I got no use for people like this. Personally, I give him the biggest thing he did right that day is that he revoked his own birth certificate. Quite frankly, from a standpoint of, him as a human being, don't know him, pretty much glad I didn't know him, don't want to know him. I am, again, naturally curious and inquisitive as to what all is going through this idiot's mind. What would prompt someone to do this? And again, that's the same general curiosity I approach a lot of these shootings with. I want to know the why. And I want to know the why so we can deal with these idiots. So we can deal with these before this idiot does this. Now, they found out a little bit of backstory on it. I'm going to go through it. He apparently had flunked out of college. He had lost his job at Home Depot and possibly also lost a job at a Family Dollar or a Dollar Tree. Not a Dollar General, but Family Dollar or Dollar Tree. He possibly lost a job there too. Per dad, he was on psych medication and getting psych help, but he wasn't probably taking his medication because they found a bottle from back in the beginning of July that was still full. Okay. Dad said ever since he flunked out of college and lost his job, he's pretty much been living in his room. I wish he had stayed under whatever rock he had wanted to crawl out from under because, quite frankly, that's where he belongs, living under a rock, and shouldn't be out in society with decent human beings like these individuals who he attacked. Now, when we go back a little further into the suspect history, in 2016, he was involved in a domestic incident involving his brother. There were no arrests made. He was possibly 14 at the time. His brother was possibly 19, 20, somewhere in there. He got into a physical altercation. There were no arrests made. It wasn't really much of anything to it, but his name was on the report. Okay. He, in 2017, was held in custody on evaluation pursuant to a Baker Act, which is an involuntary commitment, which is basically where friends, family, typically family members, get someone for an involuntary psych evaluation, and they get held in custody to evaluate the person, figure out, what's going on. So obviously the parents knew there was something going on with psych history. He's also currently seeing a psych counselor. He's also currently been prescribed psych meds, which he's questionably compliant with. Maybe, maybe not. And meanwhile, he's living at mom and dad's house. He's getting guns, and the guns were purchased legally. We'll get into that here in a minute. But my next question is, where were the parents? Ordinarily, I don't necessarily get on parents too much. I can't blame parents for the actions of a crazy kid. On the other side of the coin, they had this kid Baker acted in 2017. They've got him going to a psych counselor. He's on psych meds. Dad's got to know there's something wrong. You can't not know. And he's living in his room. If you've been living in your room for several weeks or months, did family not talk to him, figure out what's going on? Or is this little kid just left to write his manifesto? I've got questions. I don't know. And one of the questions I have, I don't know, did mom and dad know that he had firearms? They've not come out and said one way or the other yet. We know that day, the steps he went through, and it's very interesting. He left his house. He went to a Family Dollar store. He entered wearing a standard surgical mask, not wearing any vest. He appeared to be unarmed on the video camera, went in, made a purchase, looked around, went outside. A security vehicle pulls up, and apparently not wanting to meet any resistance, he gets in his car and leaves. Okay, that security vehicle that showed up may have been what saved people's lives at the Family Dollar. We don't know, but for some reason, he was at a Family Dollar, and he suddenly decided to leave. And if you're not familiar, Family Dollar and Dollar Tree are frequently merged as one store. So he had worked at one, he's at the other. We don't know how his employment there ended or what was going on, but he leaves from there when the security car arrives. He goes and parks in a parking lot at Edward Waters University. Now, Edward Waters University is the first historic Black college in Florida. Okay, it's a very historic college. So again, with it being a big HBCU, big name in Florida, he's there. He gets out of his vehicle and begins putting on a tactical vest of some kind. Whether it's bullet resistant or not, we don't know. But he begins putting on a tactical vest and other stuff. People see this. They contact campus security. Campus security goes over. He sees the campus security vehicle. Whether they talk to him or engage with him in any way, he quickly leaves that area. Some people say he was confronted by campus security. Some people say he saw them pull in and the officer was preparing to confront him. Don't know. But again, someone saw him. He waved off on whatever he was going to do. If he was going to do anything, leaves, goes up the road to this Dollar General store. He gets out of his vehicle at the Dollar General, and well, we know where it went from there. Now, was he targeting the HBCU? Possibly. Or was he using it as a place to park? It's a weekend. You're trying to find a parking lot where you can throw this garb or this get up on without anyone seeing you. He thought he found a place. There wasn't anyone around. He starts doing it and someone pulls up. We don't know. Again, there's a little bit more in the timeline we're trying to put together. Now, he goes to the Dollar General store. We've talked about what goes on there. Going beyond this, the gentleman, the weapons involved, he had a Glock pistol, which he purchased in April. He had an AR-15 style rifle, which he purchased in June. He had decorated or scrawled, I would say desecrated personally, the side of the lower receiver with a bunch of swastikas and a bunch of anti-Semitic writing and a bunch of graffiti with the quality of what looked like a white paint pen or maybe whiteout pen or some crap like that. It looked amateurish at best, which I don't expect much better from this piece of garbage, quite frankly, but okay, go on. He does that, and he uses this to go out and do his rant. Now, this is a random shooting. 3 people killed who are going on about their day. One woman drives her friend to the store, just being a good friend. Another guy, young guy, working behind the counter at Dollar General, saving up money for college. He had recently, been accepted to college. He's working, doing his thing. Another guy walks in the door with his girlfriend. They're actually on the way to pick up his child, and they're getting a present or getting something for the child. 3 normal, decent human beings going about their everyday life, killed by what only amounts to a human cockroach. I mean, for all intents and purposes. The thing that bothers me about it is in the aftermath, and what we hear afterwards is there was a lot of people talking about it, trying to either turn this into something political or into something, I don't want to say racial, because it was definitely racially motivated, and I'm not saying that it wasn't. But they're trying to say that, African Americans, persons of color, whatever the term we're going to use, are being hunted down on American streets. No. This is one person who did one very disgusting thing. We live in a country of 335 million people. 335 million people. Now, when I can look at this idiot, this cockroach, definitely twisted, racist ideology, racist, disgusting, but the thing is, you don't find a group coming out afterwards saying, yay, it was a good thing this happened. There's not been a great, letter to the editor of any newspaper or anything nationwide saying, yeah, this was a good thing. No. Virtually everybody who has said any word about it has used terms like disgusting, psychotic, no one is a fan of this idiot, or at least no one publicly is. Now, are there maybe 10 people sitting at home in their mama's basement eating rotten Hot Pockets who may be fans of him? Yeah, okay. Out of 335 million people, I'll even say there may be 50 or 100 in the country. But out of 335 million people. Now, there was an immediate tenor drawn between this and the shooting that occurred up at the Top supermarket back in 2022. Okay. The individual who did that, he had a manifesto that came out. He was, definitely anti-immigrant. He was anti-person of color. He was anti-media. He was anti-Jewish. He was anti a lot of things. I've read his manifesto, and it reads like the Diary of a Madman. There's no, serious logic to any of it. It's somebody who obviously is a very warped individual who sat there and spent a little bit too much time trying to do some desktop publishing. But okay, let's say that was totally 100% racially motivated. The other one they've drawn attention to was the Charleston shooting. Now, that happened right down the road here from me in South Carolina, in Charleston. And it happened back in like 2015. And they say, you see, these three incidents prove that, how racism is alive and well today. Well, if you've got to go back from 2023 to 2015 to the Charleston shooting, and you can identify three incidents, I don't think that white supremacy or racism or anti-Black hatred, any of this, whatever you want to call it, I don't think it's alive and well. We're talking three incidents over a period of 8 years. There have been plenty of shooting incidents. There have been plenty of attack incidents of any race on all races. Now, was this piece of garbage who did this totally a racist piece of garbage? Yeah, 100%. Were the other two pretty much racist pieces of garbage? Yes. Are they both spending the rest of their life in a cage? Yes. They'll never walk the street a free person again. If this ideology or if this hatred or this racism or this, whatever was so prominent and so alive and well, as one news commentator put it, we'll just go show you white supremacy is alive and well. How? If you get 1, 2, 3 incidents in 8 years, and two of the three were all celebrating the fact they're going to a cell for the rest of their lives, and the third one, took himself out, and everyone said, thank you for saving the taxpayers the money. 99.999% of our country would not spit on these individuals, would not, do a thing for them. So no, I understand it's a tragedy. I understand it's awful. And I understand that, yes, okay, maybe a certain degree of racism exists somewhere in a small corner with a mentally ill 21-year-old who's locked in his bedroom for weeks, who got fired from Home Depot, flunked out of college. I mean, let's face it, loser with a capital L on this kid. And, but this is not normal. This is not representative of what's normal. We can talk about what's normal. I'm a big football fan. I'm a big hockey fan. It's the fall. Football's starting. That's normal. We expect every fall for football to start up. A little while later, hockey is going to start up. Yeah, I'm a big hockey fan. I know that once football gets going, hockey isn't that far behind. Normal is, I wake up in the morning and I work on videos or work on classes or do things. Normal is I run my errands and go up and, drink way too much coffee. That's normal. That's stuff that happens all the time. We expect to be normal. Wearing pants to work every day is normal. Well, for some people. Going out and, chowing down at the local Chinese buffet. Yeah, fat boy eats well. That's normal. But this is the equivalent of me going out to the Pizza Inn and only getting a little bitty salad. This is not normal. This is a weird, disgusting piece of garbage who represents one, maybe 100 out of 335 million human beings in this country. This is not representative of this country. This is an outlier. It is an outlier like, snow in October. It is an outlier like a blizzard in March. We don't usually get them here in South Carolina. Could we? Yes. Could we have a white Easter? It's been known to happen. But it's not normal. This is not normal. So don't think, and I hope people understand. And I've seen some of the commentary of people saying, well, all the guns in the world, they're getting people hunted. You know what? This person didn't go out and hunt anything. He went out and just went after targets of opportunity randomly. And he's a weak piece of garbage human being. And like I said, I'm glad that he, did the work for us, saved us the time, effort, and energy. But make no mistake, this is not normal. This is not representative of what this country is. And it's not representative of the citizens of this country. So yes, it happened. And it's weird and it's strange and it's bizarre, but that's also why it makes national news, because it's so far out of the normal. Think about it. If 737s were dropping out of the sky every day, we'd be used to plane crashes just dropping in our yard. But we don't hear about it all the time. Why? It makes the news when it's a big deal because it's not a normal thing. Definitely not normal. Now, we're going to go a little further here. We're going to look at an incident that occurred in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and it happened shortly after the other incident happened a couple days after. And this occurred in the Caudill Lab building. They had a faculty member who was killed. The suspect was taken into custody within about 90 minutes, a little bit less after the shooting. And the firearm at this time has not been found, is unknown, but it was a 9mm handgun. Now, it's very interesting. The faculty member was an associate professor. He had worked for the school since 2019. A witness and the first 911 caller actually saw the shooter leaving the area with the firearm in his hand, told the police who it was, what he was wearing, and that he still had a gun and they needed to lock down the campus. But he didn't discharge any rounds of them. All the way from when he got on the campus to where he found that professor, he did not discharge anything. And the reason I bring this up, let's look at the Dollar General. That was a random act. He randomly went to that Dollar General, and there was someone in the front parking lot, and there's someone working here, and there's people, and he's chasing around the store. That was random violence. Those people just going about their day, totally random violence, no connection whatsoever between them and the piece of garbage behind the gun. This one, not so much. The witness saw it, identified who he was, knew him, was a student. He was a 34-year-old male, PhD student. He's actually a Chinese citizen. He's been in this country for some time. He graduated from the Wuhan University. He then went to LSU, down Louisiana State University, graduated there with a master's degree in 2021. He is now being held without bond on first-degree murder and weapons charges. And the reason I bring that up is, we look at this and they say, what more could have been done? We don't know. UNC Chapel Hill was very upset. They wanted, the students were, how could this happen? Well, we don't know everything, and they're still looking into it. They do know that the shooter and the victim knew each other well. The shooter joined the research team that was run by the victim in January of 2022, figured probably shortly after he graduated from LSU in 2021. They had co-authored 2 articles together at least. The shooter went directly to and from the victim. The victim was also his academic advisor, we believe. Now, it's really interesting when you look at the fact that the shooter went to and from the victim, passing how many other students didn't do anything, as opposed to the one at Dollar General. He sees the woman sitting outside, shoots her as he goes in the door. The reason, again, I bring this up, and there is a big difference in these. This is not a random shooting. This was not somebody went to a college campus and randomly began picking people off like we had at, say, Michigan State University. This was more than likely some type of beef between 2 individuals. They're obviously well acquainted, knew each other very well, whether it was a disagreement over a grade, a disagreement over a theory, a disagreement over a cute girlfriend, who knows. But, the victim was his advisor. There was a beef between these two. This is not a random act of violence. And I bring this up because people are saying, when's the next, mass shooter going to break out on a college campus? This one was not, to me, a mass shooter. A had a beef with B, and it happened. Now, the students at UNC have been very actively calling for, more gun control. We need more gun laws. I'm going to say something, and I'm going to show you something as we go back here. Let's look back to the Dollar General for a second. As we look back at the Dollar General for a second, it occurred in Florida. Now, in Florida, they've got red flag laws. In Florida, could Daddy have red flagged him if he knew he had a gun? Yeah. Secondly, He lived with his parents. Could the parents have done something? Yeah. Okay. Even beyond the red flag laws. When we talk about 10-day waiting periods, these guns were purchased months ago. So, okay, waiting periods will help. No, they didn't help. He's had that pistol since April, and he's had the AR-15 rifle since June. He discharged about 11 rounds total. Based on the cost of what he was wearing and everything I can get cost estimate, he put about $2,500 into his setup, into his rig to do this, between the AR and the Glock and body armor, and 2,000 maybe a little more, depending on if he was wearing body armor or just a vest carrier. So we've got a state that's got red flag laws. Now, red flag laws didn't fix it. We theoretically could have had all the waiting periods in the world. That wouldn't have fixed it. If we used our magical genie wand, as my dear friend Danielle likes to do, and go blink and point it out of there and get rid of that AR-15, would he have still had a Glock pistol? Yes. Could you still shoot somebody and kill them with a Glock pistol? Yes. We look at this one on a college campus. Well, 9mm handguns. So it wasn't an AR-15. It wasn't an assault weapon. There were no pistol braces involved in any of these that we know of. You see where we're going. Once again, we can make all the laws in the world, but without good, intelligent, thought process, we're just passing useless garbage. Now, how this guy got the gun at UNC, we don't know. As far as, with him being a Chinese citizen, not sure. The gentleman who was shot is also a Chinese citizen. For all we know, they've had a beef from way back in China. I mean, possible. Not saying they do or they don't. Something weird here going on. But on these, again, I will say to the students who want more rules on guns, it was the rules on guns that made damn sure that the professor couldn't be carrying. It was the rules on guns that made sure the students who saw someone walking through with a handgun couldn't do anything about it. North Carolina, public university, no carry, no guns allowed. The no gun sign, the gun free zone strikes again. It didn't work. It didn't stop the shooter. It stopped the defenders. Fortunately, this guy only had his sights set, so to speak, bad pun, on one individual as opposed to doing more. But when you look at the big scope of things, this guy could have gone with impunity and shot a whole bunch more people because anybody could pick up phone, call 911. But you know what they couldn't do? Defend themselves. There was no way for them to defend themselves. He walked right off the campus, gun in hand, with impunity, because the only gun there was his. And again, the police caught him about 90 minutes later, just off campus. Again, he went there with a purpose. He had a goal in mind. We don't know why, and I'm going to follow up on this, watch for it, and see what I can find. But again, as we look at these tragedies and we look at these awful incidents, gun control makes the victim softer. Gun control makes the victims easier targets. The gun-free zone didn't stop the shooter. In Florida, the red flag law didn't stop the shooter. In Florida, a 10-day waiting period wouldn't have stopped the shooter. Now maybe if dad and mom had realized the guy had guns and if they had red flagged him, maybe it would have worked then. But imagine that didn't happen. And dad's been worried about him because he's been staying in his office and living in his room. Well, guess what? I guess we come to a point where that goes. Now, this is a big update, and this is one that really means a lot to me because it comes from an update from our last incident report, Orange County, California. If you remember, we had a shooter at a neighborhood bar. It happened on a Wednesday night. Male suspect entered the bar with 2 handguns, opened fire on the bar patrons, the band, and the staff. The suspect then exited the bar to retrieve another handgun and a 12-gauge shotgun from his truck and began to fire on and kill more people. The suspect was shot and killed by responding deputies after amassing a total of 3 dead and 6 wounded. One of the wounded was his ex-wife. We know that. And his ex-wife, she was there having dinner with a female friend of hers, and it is what it is. The female friend, unfortunately, took a round in the chest early on. The wife got a round in the jaw, so she, we know she's got a long road to recovery with reconstruction and everything else. The female friend got a round in the chest, took a few steps, and dropped to the ground and is no longer with us. We dug a little further. This gentleman, again, it was a pending divorce case. The divorce hadn't been finalized yet, but it had been filed back in December 22. The gentleman drove from Ohio all the way to Orange County, California. He no longer lived local. He got in his car and made a conscious effort to drive from Ohio all the way to Orange County, California with these 4 firearms. And I'm guessing he wasn't necessarily doing it to go to the range or to go target shooting or anything else. Now, we have a bar, restaurant, and it was sort of 50-50 whether everyone is described as it's a bar, but it's more of a neighborhood restaurant. Well, it turns out that as of September 1st, it came out, 4 of the patrons that were sitting on the patio of the bar were actually United States Marines, all of whom had significant foreign combat and medical experience from battlefield stuff. We're talking Somalia, Iraq, Afghanistan, blah, blah, blah. But, can't bring a gun into a bar. At least 2 of these individuals are regular, everyday concealed carriers. But, because they were going to a bar, they left their gun home. When the shots started going off, they realized what they were hearing. They probably realized quicker than anyone else did. That's gunfire. And they ended up pinned down in a corner because they could not get up. They could not render aid. This gentleman is, again, spraying and praying around the bar on Wednesday, spaghetti night. $8, all you can eat spaghetti. I hear it's really good. I'm not in the California area, but folks, if you are, show this place a little bit of love. If you want to hit me up on my email, I'll tell you where it is. They do an $8 all you can eat spaghetti for the community on Wednesday nights. That's the kind of place this is. So people are just out there having dinner, talking, cutting up. These individuals, at least 2 of these 4 Marines, would have usually anywhere else been armed, would have been able to stand up and do something. A gun-free zone disarmed United States Marines, at least 2 of which could have more than likely, in one interview, the guy said, he goes, I ain't going to call no hero bullshit, but we could have done something. He walked right past them out to his car and was coming back in. They said at least at that moment when he was coming back in with a 12-gauge shotgun, they could have done something. They could have engaged him when he's out in the parking lot, not let him get inside, not let him do this. They were disarmed. Good guys obeyed the sign of no concealable weapons. Good guys follow the law of we shall not bring a firearm into a bar. The bad guy, he drove all the way from Ohio. That sign meant nothing to him. The human lives he was set to destroy meant nothing to him. His wife's face, who he was about to blow her jaw off, meant nothing to him. Bad guys walk through gun-free zone signs every time. It's why we see 96% plus. This guy was, again, no previous history of domestic violence on record, but that I would consider going to try to shoot your ex-wife. And I think that's pretty much domestic violence. So here this guy is going to do something pretty heinous. That sign meant nothing. That policy, that thou shalt not bring a gun in a bar, meant nothing to him. Only means something to good guys. Only means something for defenders. Those college signs. I remember when I went to paramedic school and I wasn't allowed to carry on campus. Those signs only meant something to good guys. Bad guys don't care. Let's go a step further. Myself and one of my colleagues was going out to lunch the other day. And when we went out to lunch, we were looking for something to change of pace. And there was a pizza place that I remember that I've eaten at several times before. And they had really good pizza. It's kind of an off the beaten path. It's not really near the office, but we were running some errands up in the big town of Greenville. And I decided I was going to run by this pizza place and let's try some of their pizza because they got a couple of new recipes. I'm not going to name their name, but they've got a no concealable weapon sign on the door. And we're walking up to the door. Now, I've got my everyday carry with me because, well, I'm wearing my pants. I try to wear pants to work. I saw that sign. I thought about this. No, I ain't doing it. We went somewhere else for lunch. Now, I know that that restaurant serves wine and serves beer. I've had a beer or 10 there before. And I get the fact that, booze and firearms don't mix in any way, shape, or form. But I also know plenty of times that I've gone out for dinner with a group of people and whoever's DDing is also carrying, usually carrying heavy. Why? Well, because if they're good enough to DD us home, they're good enough to be carrying, and at least one of us is. Unlike these four guys who they didn't carry into a bar. We're responsible about it. If we're drinking, we secure our weapons. If we're not drinking, we bring our weapons with us. I can make that choice. I can go to that pizza place that, they've got beer and all kinds of wine list and everything. I can drink sweet tea with my lunch. And I would have bought, a pretty good amount of pizza from them. I was pretty hungry that day. I was thinking about getting enough that I'd take some home, maybe even take an appetizer home. But you know what? That sign at that door, the first thing I thought is, God forbid some guy comes in to go after a waitress or to go after his ex-wife or to rob the place or do God knows what. And I listen to that sign and I leave it in the car. So the business lost a sale that day from the group of us. And we ended up, I'm not going to name where we went, but we went to a place just up the road and we had a really good lunch. And I explained over lunch, I said, look, maybe I'm paranoid, maybe I'm crazy. If you watch enough of these videos, you do enough of this stuff, you realize. And I bring this up because the business owners out there, think twice. A no gun sign is only going to chase good guys away. A no gun sign is never going to be what chases a bad guy away. Now, if someone's in there and they're drunk and they're carrying, they got a problem. They got a bigger problem than that. Because they don't need to be carrying, and it's illegal to do so by state law here in South Carolina. But there's going to be more and more people who, especially with the way things are, they don't want to leave their weapon secured in their car, or they may be afraid it gets stolen out of their car, or they may just feel a little bit naked without it, especially with all this stuff going on. It is what it is, folks. I want to thank y'all for coming in, checking out the video today. If you want more information, here's some of the places you can find us. We do all sorts of fun things. My email is down there on the bottom if you want more interesting classes. You check us out. We do have our Facebook. We've got locals. We try to post there occasionally. Our Rumble library is where we leave a lot of our videos up. We also have stuff on YouTube. And if there's anything I do that can't go on YouTube, well, it goes over on Rumble. Beyond that, folks, y'all have a wonderful day. Be smart. Be safe. Do well by yourself and each other. Bye.